name is Seafood Nico. This is Seafood Nico's podcast, and I have Alexia on. She's going to tell you all about herself, but I'm excited to bring her on. We're going to dive into different experiences and all that stuff, dealing with fitness, health, mindset, etc. We're going to go in deep. So, Alexia, without further ado, please let us know who you are and all about your business and whatnot.
For sure. Yeah. So my name's Alexia. It's up here in case you guys weren't sure. But yeah, I'm 25. I am an entrepreneur. I own The Flex Effect. So it's my own online coaching company that I started in January of 2021. So I'm about to be 2 years in. So excited. So I am a team of 6, including myself and my fiance. So it's been a wild, amazing journey, and we just help people get their health and fitness together, definitely working towards focusing on mindset, habit building, and a sustainable lifestyle, and not, the crazy fad diets you see everywhere in the crazy TikTok. Anyway, don't get me started on all that.
I know. Well, we're going to dive into all that later.
Right.
First, I want to let everybody know Alexia is a phenomenal human being. I've had the honor and chance to meet and work with her, and I can't say enough nice things about you. I don't want to, ego inflate, but you deserve that, because just what you've gone through, what you've been through as a business owner, and your personal development has been wonderful. Let's go back. Let's dive in a little bit. Yeah, we're going back, guys. Going back. So you started everything young, it seems like. I looked at a few things that you've done in wrestling and sports and whatnot. So what got you into that initially? Like, how did you even get started? Were you motivated by parents, friends? Like, what happened there? Yeah.
Man, I feel like it's a bunch of different things, because I don't know. I've always been a competitive kid, and I do remember feeling slightly jealous of my older brother because he got to do all the sports before I could start. Just like money wise, he was the oldest, and we could only afford one kid playing sports type thing. And I was like, what the heck? I want to play sports. And I remember just getting really competitive, and like I would just like be doing push-ups, and I was like a little elementary school kid. Eventually in middle school, I did start sports. So I started with lacrosse. That was my very first sport.
That's an intense first sport. I mean, I like that.
Yeah. Well, with like the female version of lacrosse, you don't have like contact really. But I do remember always being like, man, I kind of wish this was a contact sport. Like, I don't know, something about it. Like, I loved lacrosse, but I did want to, I don't know, just run someone over like randomly. So then my brother, so he's 2 years older than me. He got into wrestling after we moved to Oregon. So I've kind of lived everywhere, by the way. So I can kind of dive into that in a little bit too. But so we moved to Oregon, and my brother started wrestling. And I was like, wow, that's a pretty cool sport. Like, I thought it was so cool. Went and watched one of his tournaments, and there was one girl in that whole tournament. And I just thought that was the most badass thing ever. And she was just like killing it too. And I remember 8th grade, Alexia was just watching all that. And I was like, wow, I kind of want to try something like that. And I mentioned it at the dinner table with my dad and my brother and my mom there. And they were so supportive about it. They were like, yeah, you should do it. Like, you're going to be in high school next year. Like, if you want to wrestle, like, do it. And your brother's going to be on the team. And so, yeah, high school comes along, and I was like, I remember sitting in health class, and my health teacher happened to be the head coach of the wrestling team. I was like, it is fate. I'm supposed to be on the wrestling team. Right. So I walked up to him after class, and I was like, hey, coach, would love to try to join the wrestling team. And he was like a stat girl. Like, that was kind of unheard of for girls to, want to wrestle. I was like, no, like, I want to actually wrestle. And at the time, I mean, I didn't really understand like Title IX stuff. And that was his first year as a head coach. So he was a little hesitant naturally, just like the logistics of it. And like, how am I going to weigh this girl in? And she's gonna be the only girl and all this stuff. Right. So at first it was kind of like, not sure if I would be allowed to even join. my dad advocated for me. He like went to the school and was like, just give her a shot. Like she's a super hard worker.
That's
And
cool.
yeah, so I ended up going for it and joining the team. And that was extremely terrifying. But
Yeah.
I feel that like, I remember that day so well because I was walking up the steps to go to the wrestling room and like my whole body was shaking. I was terrified. But I mean, throughout my life, I had always been the new kid. Like I always moved around and I was always the new
Right.
kid in school. And so just like walking into a new room of a bunch of strangers or a
Yeah.
situation that was uncomfortable to me, I realized like that actually helped me push through that fear when joining an all boys wrestling team in high school. So
So yeah, I think that's amazing because I want to go back to that
yeah.
because I looked through that and I'm like, you were the only female in that whole entire team. Can we talk about that? Because that is huge for a lot of the female viewers that are looking at this and may feel outcasted by these aggressive sports, not including them. I think that you being in there is transformative and it's inspiring. So, but before that, it was probably scary and like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do with
Yeah.
all this competition and stuff? So, can you walk me through like the way you felt, if you got bullied or not even bullied, just like looked at weird or something? Like, what was the process of that?
Yeah. It was definitely very tough. And because I felt like me walking in there and being the only girl, and it wasn't very common, especially in Oregon at the time, it was kind of like I really had to earn the respect and earn my spot. Right. And I always thought to myself, like, man, this sucks because a boy can walk in and it's like you're given wrestling shoes and you're like, let's go. And the coaches will give you like that extra attention. Whereas everyone's very skeptical of me, like, oh, what are her real intentions? Why is she
Right.
here? So I had to really like prove to everyone that no, I deserve to be here and I'm going to work my ass off and I'm going to make this team better. And eventually, once my senior year came along, I actually became one of the captains. So I was like a co-captain
Wow.
and I became a leader on that boys team. And eventually I was able to get one other girl on the team. So that was like super cool for me because I was like, yes, we got one other girl, let's go.
Yeah.
I will get back to like how I was feeling through it, but I will
Yeah.
say to this day, there's actually a full like girls team at my high school is like 10 girls.
Man.
And it's been so long since I've been back to my high school. I'm in Illinois now. And so I'm actually going to go see them at the end of January and just kind of wrestle around with them and train with them and watch them wrestle. So I'm so excited. And I know that when I was that age, it would have meant so much to me if I could have had that older, more experienced
Right.
athlete, female athlete to look up to and see. So I'm so honored that I even get to do something like that.
I,
It's so cool.
I just got the chills because you literally, from my perspective, it's like you literally were a trailblazer and you blaze the trail for women to be able to get into that sport in that area. And that to me is inspirational. And even more than that, it's legendary. I know you may not consider that, but it is because for you, I want to say 3 years, or yeah, you said at least 4 years of you being the only female, or 3 years, something like that. I mean, there's a lot within that prior to just being the trailblazer. So, where was your mental at as far as I am going to push past all of this negativity and be the female that leads other females to join into this?
That's hard. Because I don't know. I feel like it was because of the support from my family. Like my brother was super supportive of me, and my dad just had this like undeniable belief that I could do anything, and that he instilled in me at a young age. And I'm like, yeah, so I'm gonna just freaking prove myself, and I don't care what anyone says, and I'm just gonna do the work. And so I think that shined through, and they kind of used me to like help make the team better because they'll be like, all right, Alexia, like, let's fucking get it. Let's go like as hard as you can, like running harder than everyone. And it's like, boys don't want to lose to a girl.
Right.
So that just made the team work harder because they don't want
Right.
to lose against me, kind of thing. And I was like, I'm cool with it. I like pushing myself. I'm competitive. And so it worked out. But yeah, I mean, I would say as far as like getting picked on, it wasn't ever too bad.
Yeah.
I would say like I was definitely a target at times, but it would just be like, you got rowdy high school boys. So like,
Yeah.
I remember like even like I remember I got like stuffed in between two like mats, like those big mats, and they just like tickled the shit out of me, and I was like, I almost peed myself, or like so it'd be like harmless things like that, but I'd definitely be like the target, or
for sure.
I don't know what like table topping is. Do you know what that is?
I don't. You have to explain what is that?
Okay, so basically, like one of my teammates would like come up and talk to me, and I'm thinking they're trying to have an actual conversation with me. They're like, how's your day? Blah, blah. I'm like talking to them. And meanwhile, someone else goes behind me and crouches. And then basically the person I'm talking to just pushes me really hard. And then I just like do damn near a backflip. And I'm like, what the heck? What the heck, Jimmy? Why'd you do that?
Not Jimmy.
That to me. Or like just tripping me or just like, but I would do it back. So it's all good.
Oh, yeah. And I think that probably built like a camaraderie between everybody. And they started to, it was almost like you didn't have to think about demanding respect, but it was a sense of demanding respect, just playing back with it, not letting it tear you down, and just being, a team player in that whole scenario. Yeah. And so I have to say, I love this because it is a sense of growth in your mentality at such a young age. Because a lot of people that age aren't thinking about, am I going to be a leader and this and that? And you may not even have been thinking about that, but you were being that because of the support you had. And that to me is tremendous, because support can launch you into anything because it's self-belief. And and jumping forward, you're a business owner, you are an entrepreneur, and that self-belief was a nugget or a seed for you to just grow and have a great foundation. And so people that are like watching and seeing this, I want them to see the pieces that it takes to become the best you or the better you, right? Or do better, exactly. Right? But there's definitely pieces that trickle down the line to help you become a more stable individual, mentally, physically, spiritually, whatever it is, because you've grown through that adversity. And I just have to say that I love that at the end of that 4 years or your time there, you brought someone else on. And I really want to hear about that, because bringing another female on to another male dominant team was probably scary for that person, for her. So what did you, like, how did you convince her to join? Like,
so, man, I was like always trying to recruit girls. I'm like, hey, it's awesome. You should do it. And they're like, you're gonna wrestle a bunch of sweaty boys. No, thanks, kind of thing. But with this particular female, it was not that hard, because I was in the locker room and I see some girl putting on football pads like across the locker room. And I was like, yo, she already is on a boys team.
Right.
And like me, and she was like, I was a senior, she was a freshman, and she's putting on football pads. And I'm like, oh my God, I was so excited. So I like went over to her and I was like, hey, I'm Alexia. I'm on the wrestling team, and I see you're on the football team, and wrestling would actually really help your football career. So you might as well join. So I think she was just like, okay, like, let me think about it, or like talk, like, I don't know. Right. But eventually I kept bothering the shit out of her, because I'm like, you're going to join. Okay. Hey, preseason, let's go. Let's figure it out. So it really, I was definitely persistent. But yeah, it wasn't too hard, because she was already out of her comfort zone at a young age playing football of all things. So that was super cool though. And she became one of my best friends at the time. And she was a 170 pounder and I was like a 113 pounder. Oh, so wow. She was a badass. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a big jump too.
Yeah. So it was very cool, but she did really well. She ended up getting injured, and she got a ACL tear and had to deal with all that. So she ended up not continuing into college. Plus I had left already at that point. Like, we were only in high school together for 1 year type thing. But Yeah, but it was super cool. I was super happy to have another female on the team. It made me feel more comfortable, even if I've had already been there for so long.
Right.
I think something else I did want to bring up that was super interesting whenever I think back to that time is I was overcompensating, trying to fit in so hard that like I wasn't very feminine in high school. Like I would wear like basketball shorts all the time. Like I wasn't super girly. I didn't have pink scrunchies, kind of thing. And I don't know. I wanted to fit in that, and to me, like wrestling was so important, and that was like my only focus, and just like being successful there and like fitting in with that team. So I kind of just like dove in full on into like my masculine side, and it wasn't until college that I was on this team of a bunch of freaking badass women, and they're like doing their makeup and their hair and like, and I was like, wow, and everyone's like hella pretty too,
Right.
And so it was very cool to like then discover my femininity in college, because it's like I was allowed to. It felt like I was allowed to do that, being on a women's team, and that was something extremely important and very cool to me. And now, I got lashes on.
You got the extensions, the hair did. Right. And I think that's a great personal growth point to mention, because at that time and at that age, and I want to say like what, 16 to 18 or something like that?
So I was like 14.
Okay.
Yeah, 14,
Oh, wow. Okay.
18.
Yeah. So 14 to about 18, which is again another thing. But yeah, leaning into that feminine side, not having that up until the college, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that right there to me is another thing of personal growth, because you were just literally trying to be the best you and fight hard, and you didn't even realize that half of your life that you could have, and you learned it later. But was that weird for you, like leaning into your femininity? Like, was that hard for you to embrace that? Like, I can look pretty, or I can do these things, and I can love myself in a different way than physical. It you know what I mean? Like, was that a hard transformation, or was it more like, I really need to learn to love myself or embrace this side or try this out?
I don't think it was hard, because I had other women that they were so into like, their feminine side, and like, especially at the time. So like, Oregon, not very, very popular for girls wrestling, but California, Texas, Washington, and New York was kind of coming up a little bit. But those states, it was very common, or not extremely common, but way more common than what I had to deal with, as far as like girls on full teams and stuff like that. So you get to bond with other females, right? So they were kind of like, quote unquote, allowed to be feminine and also wrestle. Whereas for me, it was important to fit into the boys team. So I didn't really get to do that. And well, from my experience, or just what I thought at the time from my perspective.
For
and
sure.
So, and it wasn't that like I wasn't ever feminine. Like my mom put me in a pageant when I was a kid, and like I was like little cute girly type girl. But then like in high school, and especially at that age, all you want to do is fit in, and then being a new kid all the time, that was like always my goal. It's like, where can I fit into this new environment? Like, not get bullied and, all this stuff. So that's probably why for me, I like conform to more of a masculine energy. And then it wasn't too hard in college. It was more like liberating, because I was like, wow, I can like just be myself, and I can like pink and makeup and like not, no one look at me like I'm not like I don't belong, kind of thing.
Did that make you, like, the transition from being in the male dominant space and then the female dominant space, did that make you introverted, or were you are you a natural outgoing extrovert person, or how, like, did you have a transformation, or was it more like, did you stick to yourself, or did you open up while you were in the men's area when you went to
that's a whole other, okay. Oof.
Right,
okay.
yeah, that's what we're here for, baby. I want people to hear the transformation. Okay. Yeah, I want to dig deep.
Okay, so I feel like I really didn't express myself like fully until after college and when I started my business, because it was something that like I had to just step out of my comfort zone and be myself. Whereas like with wrestling, okay, so I would say like, so I was in Oregon and then I moved to Illinois, and I was just very conditioned to just be like, put your head down, do the work, shut the F up, like
Right.
that kind of mentality. That's like just what I had. And it did end up making it really hard for me to like make friends. I was very introverted. The only thing that mattered was like, let me get good grades and be a successful wrestler. Okay.
Right.
So everything else, like I was just like, nope, I don't care. I'm trying to be the best. Let's fucking go. Like that was like my mindset. But I ended up becoming extremely depressed and alone and things like that. And so it wasn't until I was like at my like lowest of lows that I finally was like, okay, this isn't healthy. This isn't right. Like I'm not doing something, like I'm doing something wrong here.
Right.
And so that's where I would start opening up to like just people that I felt the closest to at the time. And that I'm like, I feel like throughout college, I was starting to like little by little, like inch my way into like more femininity, that feminine energy, that feminine side,
Right.
and like opening up and being honest about like how I'm feeling and that I'm not okay right now or something
Right.
like that. Cause usually it's like, you know, just shut the fuck up and, you know, do the work, you know.
And get your work done. And
Yeah.
that's why I asked that question, because I was just curious on like your approach with other people, because in this, you know, we have to think about the way we're viewed, especially as business owners. And when we're going out and doing things, like we have to be productive and talking and very forward. Yeah. And so in that regard, we still have these things that we dealt with that we're like, listen, I want to just stay inside and chill. Like, I don't want to talk to people right now because I want to work hard. I want to grind. And so I know that also trickles into our day-to-day life, because we have to be out there. We have to be motivating and talking to people. But that's what I wanted to see from your perspective, is like going back, man, that had to be a tough transformation. And like you said, going through some sadness, depression, and like having to figure out why that was so. And it was probably because of the, you know, the hey, put your head down, drive forward.
Yeah.
Which in turn made you a badass, put you in the spot where you're at. But it is a sacrifice to some degree, because now it's harder to make friends. It's harder to like accept the fact of being out and social. Like you're like, I'm at this like gathering, I should be getting clients or putting more ads out or being, you know, responding to clients and just being more productive. And so that's the origin of it. And that's why maybe you have that internal fight of like, man, should I really be doing this? Like,
yeah,
where
for
does it
sure.
come from? Yeah.
And so I would say in that, I also started getting into like psychology. It's like whatever I struggle with, that's kind of what I start to like get more interested in. Like I'm like, okay, so what do I need to learn about this? Right? It's like, so then I started learning more about like psychology and sports psychology and like mindset stuff, and it just like really opened my eyes to a whole new world of like living and perspective. And I realized like, okay, so I do deal with like fear of failure and things of that nature, and you know, inadequacy or self-doubt and things like that, things I would never admit to anyone at the time. But that weighed on me a lot. So eventually I realized that I had to open up to people that I looked up to, and that was super terrifying for me, but I did. So like my teammates that like were just like the top of the top, I was like, I'd be honest, I'm like, honestly, I'm at the point where like I want to quit the team because I'm so scared of failure and like I feel depressed or like whatever it is. And like then they would open up to me, and it was kind of like just being transparent was so liberating. And then even talking to my college coach about it, and he even told me, he's like, Alexia, there's days where I want to quit. There's days where I, you know, feel like absolute dog shit. And I was like, what? Because you seem like you have it together. And like that was like so eye-opening to me that like these people I look up to, we're all struggling. We're all like,
there's a good point. I want to go to two things that you kind of mentioned. One is, adversity, and then education. That right there is so transformative, but it is like such a difficult thing to realize in the moment of the grind. So like if I am sad and going through something right now, I'm not going to think about in this moment, how can I learn from this? But what you're saying and what you did is you experienced it, and instead of suffering or letting it, define you, you're like, let's learn what I can do, why I'm feeling this way, and maybe how I can project and help others in the future from my struggle and from my pain. And I think that's such a lesson that many people can learn. And I'm even learning more about it myself. And I think we constantly evolve and do that. And then the second thing was real answers from real people, meaning, yeah, I'm struggling too. I might be, and I'm saying that you're talking to your coach at this point, talking to your coach and hearing they're struggling or they're having bad days. Like, I look up to you as like, this perfect person or this individual that is grinding and focused. And you're telling me that you're struggling and you can do this. Wow. That's to me, like eye-opening that every person, even at the top tier, even at the the highest point, has those moments of struggle. And for a person going through this stuff and realizing that, I think that's why your mental growth is, shot so far forward, because you're not putting anyone on that high pedestal. You may have people up there, but you still know they're real human beings.
Right.
There's something to be learned. So I think those two things that you touched on are so amazing for people to hear and amazing for your journey, because it's just making you, more of yourself that you are today. And that's what I'm trying to do right now is I'm really digging in, and I want to dive in and pull these pieces out.
Right.
So where we're at now is figuring out, okay, we're in college now, and you're around these, wonderful, beautiful ladies that are helping with femininity. But I kind of want to know from your perspective, what was the aggression level? So dealing with boys all, 4 years, and then dealing with girls, not to compare or not to verse them, but what was the camaraderie with your boys in relation to the female? Like, do you get what I'm getting at? Like, I want to know what the sensation was here and there, and see if, man, maybe the female were hyping me, they're going at it, and the guys were like, nah, you ain't doing this. Like, what was the difference of motivation and pieces there?
Okay. As far as aggression goes, I mean, I would say it's like, it was, my coach is like the best of the best. Like my college coach was amazing. And I feel like he put us at a very, very high standard, high level. And he always would say, like, no one cares. Like, people would be crying because they're like dying. Like, no one cares. Like, that was like his saying, right? It's like, no one cares. Just like do your stuff. But I feel like it seemed similar to me from high school and college. And that's probably why I gravitated towards that college coach, because he had that same mentality that I was used to in high school. Right. And we were gunning for the top. We wanted to be national champions. And we did become national championship team multiple years in a row. Wow. We have world team members. I became a national champ my very last year. Like, he really held us to that standard. So yeah, we were extremely aggressive and wanting to win, type mentality. But I feel that camaraderie wise, I felt it so much more deeply in college because of the level of relationship I was able to have with the other female athletes. And so, they would be like in your corner cheering you on, and like, and it's not that wouldn't happen to me in high school, but definitely much less so. And so, but there'd be little fights here and there, and my coach would be like, like my coach would be like, there's a fight, like, we're just gonna let it roll, like that's, he encouraged it. He was like, we like this. We want to chop each other's throats off, kind of thing.
I love already.
Like, whenever we would go to tournaments, he's like, we're gonna cut their heads off and spit down their throats. And so like, just psycho things, right?
He's like, Spartacus.
Yeah, no, but we were all like, we would laugh, but we were like, no, but seriously, we're gonna kill everyone. Like that's how we were like,
No, but for real.
no, but actually. But it was awesome. No, it was like definitely such an amazing time in my life and lots of ups and downs, but that time made me who I am. And kind of going back to what I was mentioning with like opening up with people you look up to or just others in your life. Right. And I feel like people are so freaking afraid of this because of fear of judgment or whatever.
Okay.
And I actually had a little meeting with like my sports psychology professor because I wanted to talk to her about like what I was going through and how it was affecting my performance within wrestling. And she gave me this analogy I'll never forget where she was like, okay, all this like fear that you have or all these negative feelings, it's like a deck of cards. And you have all these cards, this weight, you know, in your hands. And every time you tell someone, you're giving someone a card, you know, so you're lightening your load a little bit. And she was like, so stop keeping everything bottled up. It's bad for you. You know, that's kind of what she was telling me.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, that made sense. And that conversation led me to being a little more transparent and opening up with my peers and my coaches. And now I'm very freaking transparent on social media and I tell people all kinds of things about myself. And I love when I get a message from someone in the DMs just being like, wow, I struggle with this too. Thank you for sharing that. And like, to me, it's like, I don't care if people make fun of me on whatever I share, because I know there's someone out there that like, it's going to help in one way, shape or form. So that's definitely something I wish like more people would do is just be transparent, be honest. Like your Instagram doesn't have to be a highlight reel every time, you know?
Right. I there's so much packed into what you said. It's so much good juice. And I love it because let me go back and then we'll bring it back where we were. It's almost like you had to go through the fire and flames because you didn't have anyone telling you, all right, Alexia, you're going to do this, 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 and this, and this is how it's going to be. Right? It was never that. You literally had to try it out, fail, figure it out, fail, and then exceed. And it was all these things that you had to go through. And that right there to me is something I love. But even more so, I think that the standard of your coaches and the standard of the people around you pushed you. And something I love by David Goggins is be uncommon amongst uncommon people.
Ooh.
Right.
Ooh.
Yeah, right.
Let me take some notes.
Yeah, it's so deep for me because that is the formula, and you had no idea you were doing it, but you were being uncommon around uncommon people because they were thriving to be national champs. They were like, you know, we're cutting these people's heads off. We're joking, but we're not joking, you know. Like if she comes around back, no, I'm just kidding. But you know, like it is amazing that your mental survived it, that you were able to push past and sharpen yourself. You seeked guidance so that, you know, you could give that deck of cards slowly but surely to someone else. And that deck of cards, to me, I'm going to start using that in my own life. And I hope people that are watching this can understand that sometimes your problems are that deck of cards. And sometimes your issues and mental, you know, things that are going on are that deck of cards, and you have to hand one off, talk about it. You have to hand one off, do something about it. You have to hand one off and see somebody. Like there's a lot of that thing that we keep stressed and locked inside of us. And I'm learning right now because that deck of cards is something I could use myself and I could start handing off. Now, with that being said, we have to go through the fire and flame to be able to have that deck of cards and to figure that out. So with that being said, how did you gain this entrepreneurship through that? Because it didn't seem like, to me, it didn't seem like that was the next big step. So it would seem like maybe college, you know, and then this or that, because I want to know more why you didn't pursue that and you went to the business route. Was it because you had such a drive for that next thing, that national champ kind of mentality, or what was it?
So So it always comes to struggle for me. I'm always driving that struggle bus and trying to figure out where I'm going next. Yeah,
Is that a pothole?
lots of potholes. Yeah. But no, so okay, so I graduated in 2020 and I was gonna take a gap year. And kind of in preparation for physical therapy school. So basically for the longest, I knew I wanted to be a business owner. And at the time I was like, okay, I'm going to be a physical therapist. I'm going to open up my own practice and all the things, right? So I worked my ass off to get into grad school. So I got accepted to Mizzou. I took a little gap year, and that gap year happened to be the year of 2020. Best year to start in-person training, right? So that's what I did. So I was like, I'm going to be an in-person trainer. Let's go. You know, I got my exercise science degree, sports psychology. I've studied so much for like my CSCS and my CPT. So I'm like, all right, let's do it. I want to apply this stuff. So I was trying, worked hard, but I was not making very much income at all whatsoever. So I was struggling really bad, and I was kind of driven to this point where I'm like, all right, I got like $1,000 left and rent's coming up soon. And, you know, I'm over here trying to apply for food stamps and rent assistance. Right. And I'm like sweating a little bit while trying to figure all this stuff out. And I came across kind of online training because it's in the midst of COVID. Or can I not say that? The Cove.
Safe. You're good.
Anyway, so I came across this coaching company for personal trainers called Next Level Coaching Academy. And so I ended up getting on a consultation call with them, and I just wanted to see what it was about. And man, they presented the most beautiful like rundown of like how to create a business, how to be successful, how to, you know, make this a career. And I was like, oh shit, well, I can't really afford this, I'm not gonna lie. And I remember telling the closer, I was like, okay, so I literally have $1,000 left, right? And so this is like the down payment, but this is all I have left. So if I don't make money off of this, I'm not gonna be able to pay you. So it's a lose-lose, all right? So like, hopefully this works type thing. So something came over me. I'm like, okay, I can do this. Like, I'll put in the work. I can get a couple clients. Like, I can do this, right? So I like full send, put my money in, and I just went to work right away. And I was grinding because I was like, to me, it was like I had no choice but to succeed because of my financial situation. And I originally I wanted to have this online coaching company to help me pay for grad school, because there's absolutely no way I was gonna pay for grad school. Like I didn't have a scholarship for that. So that's kind of what I was trying to do. But man, I ended up doing extremely well, to the point where I was like, holy shit, I've never seen this type of money in my bank account before. Like ever. I've always struggled with money. So that was insane to me. And I was like, I really sat with it for a while, and I was talking to all of my coaches and my parents, and I'm like, I think I'm gonna like deny my acceptance letter to grad school. Like, I think I'm gonna do this entrepreneur thing, and I'm terrified, but I've been in this before, like this fear, right? Yeah, and to me, like that is always a sign of growth. Like whenever I'm terrified of something, to me, I'm like, this is probably what I have to do to like get better and to grow.
Okay, so gotta stop you because you've gone over some awesome stuff, and I want to take it back to whenever you said, and again, I'm getting chills even speaking about this, because being financially in a bad spot is some of the worst feelings ever. And I say that because, you know, rent's due, you got to eat, you know, you got to take care of yourself, basic hygiene, like a lot goes into making money and providing for yourself. And you, with that growth mindset, with the fear of failure at the precipice, still leaned in. Here's my 1,000, or here's my money. Let's make this happen. Knowing rent's coming up, knowing you still got a lot going on in your life, you know, your personal life, this has got to happen. That is what I want the viewers to know, is that moment of where you're really struggling and failure is not an option, because
Mhm.
you have to eat, you can't be homeless, like you want to provide for yourself. That right there is a big point to really look back and review on. So what was the emotion like? Was there a conversation that you had with your partner or with anyone else that that was like, hey, this is a scary time, but this is what I think we have to do? And even me saying that, this is what I think we have to do, because there's a million possibilities of like, I give you $1,000 and it was a scam. I give you $1,000 and I made like $200. Like, so many things to go on. So let's go back to that moment of where you're like, I have to invest in myself, my business, or nothing at all. And I know the motivation was to pay for grad school, but the motivation in that moment was to pay for rent.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I had to get something going there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I am, and I definitely get this from my dad, like someone who just like takes action and then figures it out, kind of thing, you know? And so, and I had proven to myself in the past that I can make things happen if I just freaking work. Like and that is never a question in my mind, that like, I will do what it takes to make something happen type thing. So that business coach, that program, like I knew, like they had it laid out, and I saw it all, and I saw the potential. So it wasn't like I didn't do my research beforehand, and I had put in a lot of research into it before I really did make that decision. But as far as like putting in that investment in my last 1,000, I kind of just went for it. And my boyfriend now he's my fiance,
Right.
but he was struggling really bad too. And that's where I was scared. I was like, I don't know what we're going to do, you know? So
Right.
I just kind of called him after, and I was like, hey, so I did a thing. He was like, what did you do? Because he wasn't making any money. He was like at a roofing company type job. He was losing money working there. I was like, you gotta quit right now, actually. Just come back home, and you're gonna help me with this business, because this is where it's at. I have a good feeling about this. Like something told me like this is what I needed to do. And so I don't know, I have a bad habit of doing that. He complains sometimes about it. I'm not gonna lie. He's like, man, why can't we just like talk about it first? And I go, let's get it. You know, I'm like kind of crazy. So I don't know if it answers your question, but I just kind of do and I figure it out. There's a mindset coach that works with the Next Level Coaching Academy. And I love this quote, but she always says like big things that you do, especially in entrepreneurship. It's like building the rocket ship as it's taking off.
Oh, yes.
I was like, that's right.
Man.
That's definitely.
I'm gonna have long hair by the end of this, because I'm getting chills like as we're talking. Yeah. Building the rocket ship as it's taking off. I love that.
That's what you did for sure.
I did, and it's weird to hear that, because I'm visualizing literally a rocket going, and I'm like, well, we need a booster, and you might need a window, you know. Like we're going into outer space, we might need a few essentials, like
oxygen, you know,
a working engine.
Yeah.
And so that growth mindset, and I'm putting you in that category because there's a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. And I really believe if you ever were in a fixed mindset, you just you just blew past that without even realizing it, you know. And to be able to throw yourself to the wolves and say, hey, I've done the research. Still, it's not guaranteed. Like it might be a foolproof system. You know, I can get coached by the best coaches and I can still end up broke because of me and because of my perseverance, right? And my self-doubt. And I feel like because of your past and because of some of the things we talked about, you turned it on 10. You drove straight forward, even telling your boyfriend at the time, fiance now, we're going to do this. Like, this is our life. We've got to make it happen. That motivation, that push, not even motivation, that discipline is top tier. And I think that can be learned. And I think that can be sought after for those people that are struggling now, for those people that may have $100 in the bank account or 500 or less than that. There's something to be learned from the perseverance of financial struggle, mental struggle, and also overcoming through a growth mindset. Saying
100%.
to myself, I'm going to study. I'm going to look at these things that are growing, that are going to help me achieve my goal, and I'm going to jump in head first. And here's the thing. People are willing to help you if you are willing to help yourself. And that right there is what you ran into with this company or this coaching, entrepreneur that you worked with. Is like, I'm sure they were wanting, someone that's ready to jump in, ready to throw the bands at them. But you were like, hey, I'm ready. I'm going to do what you're saying. I studied you guys. I know you guys got a great system. Here's my money. Let's go. Here's the results. Like that right there is a tremendous road path. And I'm just really trying to dive in, like I said, because I want the viewers and the people watching to like be able to learn and maybe reflect on themselves, because I know that I know I've been to a time to where it was so tough in my wallet where I'm like, this does not look good. This does not feel right. I'm
some tumbleweeds in there.
Yeah, I'm looking through and like, nothing's coming out.
You're like, you start crying.
Right. By the way, I love those ices. Those are good. Yes.
Oh, right here. Like,
if you guys go to Aldi's, there's a knockoff brand called Frost.
Yes. Okay, yeah. I have the actual brand, but no, for sure. Frost, just as good.
Frost is just as good. 0 calories, or no, 5 calories.
5 calories, yep.
It's 5 calories. It's a great option to drink. Yeah, delicious.
And another thing to that. Oh wait, no. Go ahead. With
no. I was literally just wrapping up what you said. I mean, just to wrap it up and get it with a bow. Everybody that watching can learn from the growth of financial struggle into some sort of unknown territory with great leadership, because there's a lot of great leaders out there. And that is something that you have to seek. That is something you have to study and understand when you're going into something new. Look at that person or that company and see their leadership. They may have everything down pat. They may have everything that looks shiny and beautiful, but they might just say, all right, here's the package, go. Right. What do I do? What do I do? Leadership is different. Leadership is someone that's going to allow you into what they have going on, see the working, see everything. And, this is how we built our business. This is what we did. This is how we kept our clients. This is what we do for them. Like every bit of it, that's a leader, someone that's going to draw you in, take you in, and see how you respond and see how you work with that sort of handout pulling in, because you could pull back and then now they're like, all right, it's your loss. We're here for you no matter what, as long as you're ready to be pulled in and stay in with us. So seek a leader, not someone that's a boss or someone that's telling you, do this, and then nothing else. So that was just my bow tie to what you had said.
And 2 things to that, because I think it's so interesting how like a lot of times people will not seek mentorship after a certain point in their life. I feel like most people after school or sports, they're like, all right, well, that's it. They're doing their thing and they don't really seek that mentorship to get to that next level in whatever facet of their life. And I will never, ever not have a mentor. I will always, I'm a fitness coach. I have a fitness coach.
Right.
I like helping people with mindset. I have a mindset coach. I just invested in one recently. Right. I am a business owner, but I also have business mentors. I want to always continue to improve and get to that next level. And we've all grown up with mentors in one way, shape, or form. And it shouldn't stop just because you're done with like school or a sport or something like that. You can always improve. So I always want to encourage people to invest in someone that is going to help them and be that leader like you were talking about. And then, go ahead.
Finish your other point, yeah.
And then my other point of someone laying something out for you, but ultimately you have to be the one to take action. and it's fitness and business is so synonymous. It kind of is mind blowing to me. Whereas, you know, you have a trainer or online coach and they're giving you the layout, but it's up to you to take action and hold yourself accountable. Yes, we're as fitness coaches, we would hold you accountable in
Sure.
other ways, but at the end of the day, you know, you're the one in the kitchen, you're the one driving yourself to the gym. It's your responsibility, and you can't rely on everyone else to do the work for you. And I feel like people forget how much work you really do have to put in, and taking ownership and taking initiative on your own while getting mentorship or leadership through it. And same thing with business. I feel like it goes in both facets. So that was like another thing.
No, that's a powerful point. I really resonate well with that because, and you know, actually we'll go forward a little bit. I resonate well with that because, and this gets into something I wanted to talk about. When we seek help and mentorship, or sorry, let's go back. We should seek help and mentorship, like you said, after certain periods of our life. And what Alexia is saying, and what I'm resonating well with, is we have to have some guidance after we overcome or go through something. Or else we are putting a blindfold on and kind of reaching out and trying to figure out, you know, grasping at straws, as they call it, because we're trying to figure out what's next. How do I navigate my emotions, my mindset, my physical? Like, how do I navigate this? And if you have a great leader or coach or mentor, you will literally have the answers at your fingertips. And now, next to what she just said, is now that you have the answers at your fingertips, it's your call. It's your move. And if you don't make that move, this is very blunt of me to say, but it is your fault. That does not mean that something's wrong with you. That means you have to look inward and say, why didn't I follow through with this? Why didn't I do these things? And why am I not looking the way I'm looking or feeling the way I'm feeling? Rather than placing blame on the program or this or that, you have to look introspectively and say, what is going on with me? And how can I fix this? Let me get a mentor. Let me follow these steps and really dig in. And it's okay to go back to step one. 100 times I've been back to step one. And knowing Alexia and hearing her story, you guys have heard her going back to step one and understanding that each time you grow. Her with $1,000 and not knowing what to do, growing, being thrown into the wolves with all men and having to figuring that out, but still growing and seeking mentorship. Like, this is something that really, I'm probably babbling on, but it's something that really gets me, because I feel like those steps of doing something after you accomplish it, whether you fail or succeed, find mentorship, grow into something else, fail or succeed, grow into something else, fail or succeed, find mentorship. Like, that is a link that should really, really, and can really help you guys move forward in your lives. And I love how you laid that out. And I'm still thinking about the rocket ship too.
Cards, rocket ship.
Yeah.
I love analogies.
Love it. So yeah, that's why I said we're moving forward, because now I really want to dive into the flex effect. I really want to know what this is. Like, I can explain from what I've seen, but I know there's so much to it. Like your progress yourself, again, we get to that later, with your physique and everything, is amazing. But with your freaking program, it's laid out so beautifully, with your check-ins, with your nutrition, with the one-on-one kind of sensation that you have with your clients, with your people. Like, please tell me how you built that.
Yeah.
Based off of your leadership that you fell into, like the entrepreneurs that you worked with. Based off of that, how did you build your business, and where is it at today?
Yeah. So Next Level Coaching Academy helped me with like all the systems and helped me develop the skills in general of like sales, marketing, and how to develop, that professional online business.
Right.
But obviously, it's my business, so I get to put in my own spin of it. Right. So One thing that I really wanted to make sure I was doing with this online coaching company was really focusing on habit building and being personable and helping people develop that confidence and push through fears of failure. Because as I've mentioned, that is something that whenever I push through and push through that uncomfortability, I always came out stronger or having grown in some way, shape, or form. And so I really wanted to make sure that was a part of the mission statement.
Right.
And along with that, and being an athlete for so long, and then being done with college, it's like that sense of identity is so woven into being an athlete. And then when your team is gone and your coaches are gone, and that structure and support and accountability is all gone. And I still, stayed active. I still went to the gym, but wow, it was not the same all of a sudden. It was really hard. I'm like, I can see why people fall off, I can see it. It
right. It's very evident.
So then whenever I was like really figuring out how I wanted to structure the Flex Effect, I knew that I wanted those pieces to be a part of it: structure, support, accountability, and education. So those are like the main pillars of the Flex Effect. And so that comes into obviously exercise science, nutrition, habit building, mindset. And so we always dive into someone's why, their goals, their obstacles, their background. We want a full story, a full outline, so we can understand how to better coach someone to being successful in their goal. And so I do have 2 assistant coaches, and they're freaking amazing. I'm literally building my dream team, and it's just like the coolest thing for me. I just love it so much. But yeah,
I want to stop you there and go back. Well, and by the way, Joyce is a rock star. I have to give a shout out to Joyce. Joy. Yes. Am I saying that right?
Joy.
Sorry. Joy.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Awesome. Her. She's gonna look at this. She's like, Joy. Okay. But yeah, going back, it's like, it's really cool that you said something that resonates with me, but I don't see very often, and it bothers me, is you literally are building a relationship with someone like your client. And the importance of that from the Flex Effect is so I can know you, because the worst thing that you can do, or like if I was new and I'm signing up to a program, online program, the worst thing that a person can do is deal with a robot. Deal with, this is how you eat. This is how, it's like, who are you? You could be a late night snacker. You could be someone that enjoys a good burger and has to have one at a movie, or has to have popcorn at a movie. Like, I need to know who you are. Let's talk. Let's dive into your personality, because that is the only way that you can help someone. Because if I'm signing up for the Flex Effect and I'm like, yeah, last night I was just at the movies, I had a bunch of popcorn. Every time I go to the movies, I love popcorn. I love all the butter and stuff. Like, I'm going to explain it to you, and then you get to know more about me. You're not judging me. You're just like, okay, that's great. Exactly. Have your popcorn, but let's try these things. Like, you're going to make suggestions based off of the human, not based off of just getting people. Like, right, another number signed up. It's not like number 10 signed up for Flex Effect. It's no. It's Nick. It's Nick also signed up for Flex Effect, and this is his personality. These are the things that we've talked about and we know about Nick, and these are our core values, and let's see if they can merge well together, and we'll make it happen. And 100%. That's what I love about the core values of the Flex Effect, is that you're getting to know someone, and then you're gonna integrate your system into those things. So
100%. I feel that the biggest red flag from like a coach or a trainer would be, that this is the way you do it. And if you don't do it this way, then you're not gonna be successful. And it's like, that's why 95% of diets fail, because you're trying to force something completely off the rails for them. And you have to meet them where they're at and slowly start building habits. And that's usually why we'll have clients stick with us for like 6 to 12 months. That's usually what we'll do, because you're not going to develop a whole different lifestyle in a couple months. I'm sorry. Like, and I'm very like brutally honest whenever I'm talking to someone. And it's like, if you're not in it for the long haul, you're probably not going to be successful. And like, I'm just going to tell you what you need to hear with that. And it is what it is. But, and then along with that, we do have that community aspect. So we have a community group chat, and I'm a big advocate of sharing 5 things that you're grateful for every morning. So we do that. And just stay in communication. We do like little questions of the days. We have little monthly raffles. We like to do challenges. And that's kind of where like having your team, you know, when you were in sports type thing, like that's kind of something I wanted to make sure I created, because I remember missing that whenever I was done with wrestling, for example. And then the accountability, we do weekly check-ins. We have a coaching app. We use True Coach. So that's where people get their workouts and how we communicate. Coaches get notifications for when you do the workout, when you don't do the workout. So we're going to, you know, hit you up. And then
the red.
Yeah, we're like, and as coaches, we have weekly coaches meetings on Thursdays, which you're going to be there next Thursday. So I'm excited. But yeah, we actually go through the what we call like KPIs. So we want to make sure our workout compliance for all of our clients are at a minimum of 80% or something like that, right?
Can you, for the viewers that don't know it, can you explain what KPI is?
Key performance. Yeah. So key performance indicator. And so with my business, with the coaching department, we look at client workout compliance, right? So we want all of our clients to be at a certain percentage of workout compliance. And if it starts to dip, we talk and we're like, okay, how are we going to get these clients back on track? Especially like the holidays, we can see the percentages dipping a little bit, right? So we're like, okay, what can we do? And it's a very collaborative effort. And that's my biggest thing with building the Flex Effect is I want every single person to give their input and be a leader in their own right and continue to grow the company. Every single person that's ever worked for the Flex Effect has created it to what it is today. And I'm so grateful for the types of people that I've been able to work with, because they literally do follow the core values of taking initiative, being creative, and being a leader and things like that. So we are always at a collaborative effort to make sure the clients get what they need to get out of the program, you know? Right. And we also do community meetings on Sundays and where we just like talk about, you know, our wins, our challenges, and anything educational. Trying to think what else. We have educational resources, and yeah, so it's a lot that goes into it. I don't have to like dive into every single thing.
No,
but
I love it. And just hearing you being able to run me through it is so nice. And it's so clean, it's fresh, because you have a step, you have an understanding for every piece and element of the business. And I think we're going to move into business in a minute, but I think that is so amazing to be able to articulate what it is. Because if I'm fresh and I'm brand new, or someone's watching and they're like, what is it? And you're like, well, it's we get you fit, you know, like, you know, I don't know, but you're able to articulate everything clearly, and it makes I'm invested in it. I'm like, okay, so if I'm not doing great, we've got a community, I can follow these things, you know, I got a coach that's assigned to me that if I have questions that maybe I don't want to put in the community, I can talk individually and feel like a one-on-one sensation and connection with that person. There's videos, like I'm really submerged, and that is the difference of making it or not making it is, and maybe I'm thinking of an analogy right now, but maybe the people that aren't doing well or are not failing, or sorry, are failing at things, are on top of that water, and the people that are doing great are saying, hey, I'm going to take a chance and dive in and submerge myself and figure out what is going on in this new world of things. And so now they're surrounded by everything positive that you have to provide. And that right there is a transformative way to live, is to submerge yourself, sometimes dive head first into these things and really figure out what someone has to offer. Going back to a few things though, I feel like someone would have, and I'm sitting here thinking about it, but 5 things that I am grateful for every morning. That is so great, because it's like a positive affirmation, but you're really having to pick it out and figure it out. And I feel like it's easy for me to say, well, I can't come up with 5 things, or I don't think there are 5 things. And right there, even in that moment, that is a learning for both of us, is like, well, let's figure out what your 5 things are. I'll help you. Or let's start talking about your life, and then we'll kind of pull out from there, because there are 5 things that we can be grateful for. There are 5 things that we can love and enjoy every single day. And if we're seeing it, we're mindful of it, then it becomes in our head. We're like, man, this makes sense. Yeah. So those down days, I'm like, shoot, pull it from these 5 things. I've got something to look forward to. I've got these things that I'm really preciously in love with, whether it just literally be, I'm grateful for life. I'm grateful for, my fiance. Whatever these things are, I need to be able to pull them out at those low points. So I really love that. And then 100%. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, I'm about to sign up for Flex Effect. You know what I mean?
Well, and what's so cool about it is like the fact that you get to read other people's grateful, for list. And I loved the day that I woke up and it was raining, and immediately I was like, man, it's raining, annoyed about it. Right. And I did my little grateful thing list, and, it immediately made me feel better. But then even more so, one of my clients mentioned, and they're in a completely different state, damn near across the country. Right. And they said, I'm grateful for the rain today. And I was like, wow. I was like, I'm over here being an asshole about the rain. and I was like, wow, they have a completely different perspective of the rain. And it's like, what side do I want to choose to be on with that? And immediately I looked outside and I'm like, and I started thinking about all the reasons the rain is beneficial. Exactly. and a good thing, and why I'm appreciative of it. Although sometimes, a little annoying, but over it did make me realize, okay, I get to choose how I perceive things. And that client made me perceive the rain in a more positive light that day. And I just thought that was the coolest thing. I was so excited about it.
The full circle system there. And I love that you're so humble, because you are, and it's not even, I'm going to say admitting, but you're talking about things that you're learning from your clients that are learning from you. Right. And it's like, I think that is the key to a successful life and a successful business, is that you're getting all this rich information, you're learning from it, you're able to funnel it back into the world, and be able to have some talking points from real people that are having real struggles, and it's coming all in full circle in your business. So that way, every single aspect, no matter where I'm at, beginning, middle, or end, right? There's not really an end, because this should be a lifestyle, but I'm in a great spot. No matter where I'm at, I've got all these tools to constantly circulate in my repertoire, right? So it's a nice big word.
I like it.
Repertoire. But yeah, so I take that and see that this thing that you have going on, the Flex Effect, is a full circuit system. It's not a cookie cutter. It's your individuality within the business. And moving into let's go back, because I forgot one thing. How the heck did you get into physique, dude? Was that before Flex Effect, or was that after?
After.
Okay, so then this works perfectly. So you get into physique. Where'd that come about?
Bodybuilding and whatnot. It's so funny, because I remember after college wrestling, and I was just really getting into lifting, and that's really all I was doing at the time. And I wasn't competing in anything, right, which was new for me. But, I remember some of my teammates would be like, what, are you a bodybuilder now? And I was like, no, what? At the time. And now I'm full on trying to get my pro card, my IP pro card. Right. Now I am a bodybuilder. Yeah. Come on. No, but so actually a cheerleader from my college did a bodybuilding show, and she did bikini, and she posted her picture, and I was like, whoa. And I had never had abs like that, so I'm like, that's kind of cool. I want to do something like that someday. Right. But I was very terrified, because I had struggled with eating disorder in high school and in the early years of college. And that's kind of where like part of like the depression came in, and I would, talk to a counselor. That was the first time I ever did something like that. But anyway, so I was fearful to do something like a bodybuilding show because I didn't know, oh, would that kind of trigger, binge eating again for me or something like that. And so there was that fear.
And then now your ignition.
And I was like, fear, I got to run towards that. So no, but I kind of was, again, like kind of doing more research, and there was certain bodybuilders that I was like looking into and just kind of listening to their mindset and their reasoning for doing a bodybuilding show. And of course I had, certain friends that kind of would be like, no, you shouldn't do it because you had an eating disorder, or like it's a glorified, whatever, like their own opinions on it. But to me, I was like, if it's something that I want to do, I'm going to do it at the end of the day, So I did more research on it, and I really liked how the certain people I would follow talked about it as a vehicle to growth, like really putting yourself in that suffering of like, dieting to that extent and working your ass off and sacrificing certain things. And that was something I gravitated towards. So I was like, wow, like I really would love to do something like that, because it had been a couple years since I competed in anything. So, then I came across this really buff dude at my apartment complex. I was walking outside, and this like huge man just walking through. His name is Tim John. You know him. I know he'll be in your next podcast or something like that. But
get him in 2023.
Let's go. Yeah. So I kind of walked up to him. I'm like, this man is too big for no reason. He's definitely a bodybuilder. So I asked him a little bit about bodybuilding, and I followed him on Instagram, followed him for about a year. I did more research, and I was like, I think I'm going to do it. I think I'm going to go for it, and I ended up competing in both figure and physique. I hired Tim as my coach, and I'm still with him to this day. And I found that I really, really love women's physique. It's just so fun for me. Like I love the fact that I get to like create my own little routine and do my dance.
Yes.
It's a posing routine, but I'm like, it's a dance.
It's a dance. Way to look at it, yeah.
But I freaking love it, and it makes sense for what I'm doing now with online coaching, right? Because to me, just regular lifestyle stuff is kind of easy for me at this point, right? Like just living a healthy lifestyle, that's like normal for me. But I know for other people, it's really hard because you're pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, you're changing habits. And I kind of wanted to be able to experience that. And bodybuilding kind of helps me experience that. And it taught me so much more about like nutrition and how to change your body, and hypertrophy training at that next level, and mental toughness, and how to overcome those cravings and those self-doubts and things like that when it comes to specifically nutrition and exercise, which is what I help clients with. Right. So it just made sense for me. And I was also able to share my journey through Instagram or social media, and it helped other people in many ways, which was super cool. I actually had a couple people reach out and tell me like I'm the reason they started bodybuilding or something. Like, I'm like, what? That's insane.
That is so cool.
So cool. So yeah. And I just generally love it. And I like pushing myself and getting myself to that next level, and bodybuilding is just kind of where I fell at this point. So I'm trying to get that IP pro card for 2023.
Yeah, that's going to be, that's going to be exciting. And I really, really hope you can give us information on how to get there when we get to that point. Like, we want to come watch.
Yeah.
So bodybuilding, there is some different stigmas, right, on bodybuilding. And I want to kind of dive in lightly, and then we'll move forward. But with bodybuilding, I often hear, you're on steroids, right? I mean, I'm just going to dive in and say it. Like, people say that all the time.
Yeah.
And so, or PEDs, whatever. What is the goal for you, like if I'm coming at you and I'm like, oh, you're just on steroids, that's why you're getting so big. What is the best way to educate someone about because you're doing natural, what is the best way to educate someone on just like, hey, why don't you just get to learn what we're doing here? Like, how do you respond to that stuff?
So first off, I kind of take it as a huge compliment if someone thinks I'm on steroids. I'm like, oh, I look that big, like. But so for one, it's perspective again, right? We talked about like gratitude and having that different perspective on things, and taking that as a compliment is one way to perceive it. But also just kind of, people that accuse you of something like that, they probably are dealing with some sort of insecurity, and they're probably not very open-minded to actually putting in the hard work in the first place. So regardless of if you are on PEDs or not, I don't think it matters whether you're an enhanced athlete or not. It's just your preference, what you decided to do with your life, and hopefully it was an educated decision and whatnot, and you have the proper guidance. But I think it's about you just improving yourself and getting to the level that you want to get at. And for me, I really want to be in the natural space, because it's just not worth it to me to.
Sure, you've done the research, you've done the education, and it's not your choice.
But on top of that, I feel like there isn't a good representation for like women's physique, natural bodybuilding, like at the NPC IFBB level. Of course, like you have the Olympia, and it's like freaking crazy, and it has a pretty big audience, and it's amazing. And I look up to those athletes too, because I see what they're doing and I see the work that they're putting in, and whether they are enhanced or not, it doesn't matter. You can learn from someone no matter what they're doing. So I would say, to answer your question, the best way to handle that is to remind them of the work that it does take, no matter what you're doing, no matter whether you're enhanced or not,
and I think
to consistency, education, and working your ass off in the gym, and nutrition and all the things, right?
Right. That's a great response to that. And then bodybuilding in itself is more mental, I'm asking.
I would say so, yeah. I mean, it's both, but I think more than anything, it's mental. But and I'm sure you have a lot of people that are in combat sports, right? That follow you, and I feel like that's how you kind of think of like MMA and martial arts and wrestling. It's like, like it's physical, but the mentality to it is at a different level. And I love, those sayings of like, if you wrestled, anything in life is easy type thing. Or like, if you did this certain combat sport, like the rest is easy, because you went through that shit. Because there's a lot going on there mentally. So, and bodybuilding is similar, where it's like, it is all mental. Like you have in the gym, in the kitchen, your day to day, the sacrifices you make with, going out or relationships or whatever, like it's all mental for sure. But, I think, again, if you think of it as a vehicle to improve and see growth in your life, then it's worth it.
Yeah. And it kind of goes back to your philosophy of fear. Let me see what you got. So a couple points yet. Guys, Tim John is phenomenal.
He's the man.
Yeah, we could spend hours on this man. But again, that goes to that point that we've talked about earlier: seeking guidance, finding someone who's a leader in their position and who is being that representation of a great leader and wonderful proof. I mean, great results, great accountability, and wonderful proof. But going back to being a bodybuilder while being an entrepreneur, someone, Bedros Keuilian, he's a influencer. He says we as fitness coaches should be walking billboards, and I resonate with that so well, because what I've been through, I lost like 50, 60 pounds. I can resonate with very, larger individuals struggling with those things. And I found that right there helped me so much connect to my clients. And so I think that is the same regard with eating disorder that you suffered with, and the depression and the bodybuilding. Like you're you've been through the fire, you're forging yourself, so you can answer those hard to answer questions on those topics. Like if someone came to you and says, I'm really struggling with eating disorder, you can share your experiences and hopefully incur some sort of guidance or counseling or whatever may be the next step in that regard. But you've been there and you understand that. And going to the bodybuilding, I feel like that is that is a way to tear yourself down and build yourself back up. If you haven't had it, that is the way to do it.
Oh, yeah.
Because you are literally every group of muscle you are focused on, like the focus level that it takes to understand how to get my lats a little bit bigger so that my stance and my posture look great, how to get my shoulder, like you're shaping yourself from the work you're doing. It's almost like a science. If not, it is,
100%.
the kinetics that go behind it. And so that to me, that's why I'm even bringing this up, is because that to me shows me as a leader. Like if I'm going to the Flex Effect, I may not want to be a bodybuilder, but God, I know you know your shit, because if I say, hey, I want big glute, I want a big ass, right? Or I want core.
That's what I get a lot.
Right. Or I want a good strong core. And I know you can get me there through rigorous training or even gradual training, whatever the individual requires. You know what I mean? And so I think that's a great leadership point that you made, is becoming a bodybuilder and seeking that, because it's one, for you, mental resilience just goes up through the roof. You're gaining knowledge, you're learning how to work with other people, and you're learning how your body responds, like how your body responds to certain foods and hydration and different things. And that's another thing I want to get into, is the nutrition. For bodybuilding, yes, we can get into that later or another time, but for nutrition in general, this is a tough one, because there's so much out there. I think if I grab my phone right now and I Googled how to lose weight, best diet, man, floodgates, the floodgate. So no wonder it's so hard to find on your own, to find a great program as far as food goes, because there's so much out there. But going back to your program, getting to know someone, and so those people that are watching, get into something like the Flex Effect, because they're getting to know you, they're understanding your habits and helping you out with better habits, and then they are going to be able to implement a nutritional system or plan that is best suited for you. It's not a cookie cutter. It's not like chicken, rice, vegetables, go, right? And even though that might be one of the meals, whatever, but it's not a cookie cutter thing. It's specific for you. Maybe you need 5 meals a day. Maybe you need 3. Maybe you need more fruits and nuts to snack on rather than, like there's a lot of specifics that go into it. And so now my question to you is, did you find that nutrition was one of the hardest pieces, or was that kind of fluent for you? In perspective of dealing with clients, not for yourself.
Okay. So I think to teach people nutrition is, I would say, the toughest part, but I always try to have some sort of roadmap plan. So in the Flex Effect, we try to have a lot of transparency in what the plan is, and we try to meet people where they're at. So what we like to start with is typically, macro tracking. And I know it's not for everyone, but we need to see what you're eating and what your current lifestyle is like. So we'll typically ask for screenshots of what you're currently eating, 2 days out of the week, 1 day out of the weekend. And we have a progression plan in place. And usually our philosophy is, okay, calories first. Like, can we eat the right amount of calories? Okay, because at the end of the day, and there's a lot of nuances to this, and yes, there's a lot that goes into it, but at the end of the day, you can't break the law of thermodynamics, right? Calories in, calories out is where that comes from. So energy cannot be created nor destroyed, right? That's the law of thermodynamics. And so calories in, calories out, you either gain weight or you lose weight based off the amount of energy you're intaking, right? So can we eat the right amount of calories? That's number one, okay? Number two, we dive into protein. can we eat the right amount of protein and the right sources of protein to help you build the muscle, feel satiated, which satiated, like not feel hungry type thing.
Right.
And yeah, and make sure that you're building the proper muscle, retaining proper muscle, recovery, all that, very important with protein. After protein, we dive into carbs, because, you know, people have that stigma about carbs and they're bad and that's what makes you gain weight. It's not the carbs, it's the calories again,
Right.
but the right sources are important. So then we're going to dive into that. So what are we eating currently, and what kind of small swaps can we make to improve it? And we'll look at fiber, because fiber helps digestion, and it also is a form of carbohydrate. So just making sure you're getting enough of fiber when we're diving into carbs. And then lastly, we dive into fats, because healthy fats are also extremely important for recovery and hormonal health. So that's kind of like the typical progression plan as far as like learning nutrition is what we our philosophy. And on top of that, we also, depending on the client's goals, it'll be, you know, a weight loss phase, reverse diet phase, maintenance, and the goal being that you don't need us anymore. I want to be highly fireable. I don't want you to need me forever. Right. So
highly fireable. Like I love that.
Yeah. So, and my favorite thing is when I get old clients text me, and I had literally someone text me today, actually, and they were like, man, I learned so much about nutrition, more than I did in college. And they were a college basketball player.
Oh,
and they're still benefiting from the things that we taught them in their time with the Flex Effect. And that right there is so freaking awesome and most meaningful thing for me. Confidence.
It's an imprint. Yeah, it's an imprint that you left on that person, and that right there is why we got into this, you know.
Right, 100%.
All of it. Yeah, so it seems like you know. No,
you answered that.
Yeah, you blew my question out of the water.
Okay.
Because right there, you've navigated clearly to an individual the steps that you take to ensure that they're getting the nutrition that they need, and buy macronutrients. And for anyone that doesn't know, it's like to figure that out for an individual, you typically use your age, your weight, your goals, and just try to really make a formula out of that. So it is truly individual. Like everybody needs different amounts of protein and whatnot. But yeah, you've laid it out very eloquently to where it makes sense to me. It's like, oh, okay, well, I have a fear of carbs. So, and you're telling me not to worry about the carbs because you're going to direct me to the right carbs that I need to be taking in. And that right there is debunking a fear, which is already letting me closer into you and your program. It's like, okay, so now I can come in and I can really be involved into what you're talking about, because I'm not going to fear this as much if you're as confident as you are about carbs or about proteins or about fats and whatever. That person that's in your program becomes a little bit more confident, a little bit more trusting,
right, and
of themselves too, you know, because now they're starting to make better choices based off of your system. Now, did you find that learning about nutrition yourself was tough? Like in the beginning stages, you know, let's say before the Flex Effect, learning about nutrition, did you have any bumps in the road, or was it kind of always smooth for you?
So, okay, my bump in the road was high school wrestling,
and
because
eating disorder and stuff.
Right, because, and I don't know if you want me to dive into that. I know we're, you know, already up to 30.
Oh,
okay. You want me to dive into it?
Yeah, I got like you know, typically like some of my podcasts will go 2 hours or 30 minutes. Yeah. So
okay, cool.
Yeah.
So basically what happened was in high school, I was about 120 pounds when I got to high school. And I remember my coach, one of the coaches being like, hey, if you can get to 113, you'd be on varsity. And my competitive ass, I was like, all right, sounds good to me. Yes. I was like, I don't know how to lose weight. Like, I'm 14. And I just kind of like asked my buddies, I'm like, what do y'all do? How do y'all lose weight? You know, kind of thing. They're like, yeah, you know, we just like starve ourselves and run with like plastics and spit in a cup and all this shit. And I was like, all right, yes, if that's what you guys, bet. So I tried doing that, and then I also learned a little bit about like calorie counting and stuff like that. So I tried to calorie count, but I was doing it myself and I didn't know what I was doing, right? And it's no one else's fault, and except my own, right? Like obviously, like with wrestling, I was influenced to lose weight, but I took it upon myself to try to do it, you know? So I basically put my calories at like 1200, and as a, you know, young, very freaking active female, that was not the right move. No. But I put my calories at 1200 and I worked out probably about 4 to 5 hours a day. I would like run 4 to 6 miles in the morning. I would weight train. And then I would do, I don't know if you know Insanity with Shaun T, that video. Yeah. So that's what I would do. And I'm like, to me, it's like the more I do, the better I'm going to be and the tougher. Like, that's just like, I was so competitive. I wanted to earn my place. I wanted to be the best. Like, that was just like my mentality. So I did all that. And so that, you know, obviously my weight definitely went down. I got what's called, I guess, like anorexia athletica, right? So you lose your period. I was like super lean. I started getting numbness in my fingertips. I would like be scared about passing out if I stood up too fast type thing. Like I had to stand up very, very slowly. And even then my vision would go black and like for a quick second, until one time it really went black and I passed out and like hit my face on a doorknob and I was like, son of a bitch. My mom was that happened at home, and my mom was like, okay, what is wrong with you? Like she was, what's going on? Really, no one knew, you know? And then from there, I went to the doctor, and the doctor was just kind of like, the first time I lost my period, the doctor was like, oh, well, that's normal for athletes, which she probably shouldn't have said that. Like, that's a red flag. And especially if that wasn't common for me, you know, as her patient. And then, you know, afterwards, once she found out like, oh, I'm passing out, I'm getting all these symptoms, she's like, you need to eat more. And like, I remember her telling me that. I'm like, well, doctor's orders, I got to eat more, you know? So the girl went ham. Okay. Because finally I was like, okay, I'm not going to restrict myself. I can like eat more because like that's what the doctor said. But naturally, and I've learned a lot about like binge eating and how your brain works, and you're like kind of like I read this book called Brain Over Binge, and they put it like you have your primitive brain and your true self brain, and like your primitive brain is just trying to like protect you type thing. And that's why you have like these urges to eat so much. But basically, I struggled with binge eating because I developed that really, really rough habit, and just my body's way of trying to protect itself because I had starved myself so bad type thing. And with the amount of calories I was expending and weight loss and whatnot. And this struggle was basically junior year of high school to my sophomore year of college. Mm-hmm. And in college, I remember just being like, man, I need to like figure this shit out. This is horrible. Like, I don't know why I can't control myself around food. Right. And it was like embarrassing for me at the time. Now I'm like, it is what it is. And I feel like more people are becoming more open about it. But so that's what really intrigued my interest in nutrition, because I'm like, okay, I'm really struggling with this. I keep like thinking I need to starve myself after a binge. Like, this can't be right, you know? So that really made me dive into nutrition. And then from there, I realized like, whoa, I have to like fuel my body properly. Like, I have to like not starve myself. And like, that's probably why I overeat at these certain times in my life or whatever. So slowly I started eating the right amount of calories, and then learning more about macros and realizing like, if I eat more protein, I do feel a little bit more satiated and a little better, and like I'm able to build more muscle, and just learning all these things and just applying it to myself. And the fact that helped me overcome the binge eating situation. And oh my gosh, my performance in the wrestling department of my life went freaking crazy once I got my nutrition. Like, I was like becoming one of the fastest sprinters. I felt like I just couldn't get tired, you know, kind of thing. Right. food is fuel. That's like what like sparked it for me. I was like, whoa, this is amazing. Like what? Like I knew it, but then when I applied it and I saw the changes in my performance and my mentality, and like I'm getting over binging, I'm like, nutrition is the shit. Like I need to keep doing this.
I love
So
that.
that's kind of like where that came from, and what got me to really dive into it.
Yeah, and again, it goes back to your journey of things. Like one of my favorite sayings that I could see on my tombstone would be, "It's not the journey, or it's not the destination, it's the journey." Because within,
So cool.
oh, love it. It's one of my favorite quotes of life. But in that moment, you're really experiencing the worst through the middle, through the best of what it is to, be nutritious with your food. And that right there makes you so relatable to every individual that's going through each one of those phases, right? And that's what I'm saying is like you went through it and then get educated, got that mentorship through it. I saw that I think NASM certification.
NASM?
Yeah. Yeah. For food. Was that for nutrition?
Oh yeah. Okay,
So,
sorry. I was like, yeah,
let me
so
tell-
NASM and then NSCA for the CSCS.
Let me tell everybody about this. I failed at the NASM test the first time I took it.
Okay, those tests they trick you sometimes.
Yeah, very tough. Very
It is
tough.
a tough test.
And but that's just me being brutally honest with myself and viewers, is like all this stuff is it takes a lot of education. So if you feel like you're seriously struggling with losing weight and not being able to find a grip on it, it is seriously because it is a science behind it. And
For sure.
we want to make it easy for you, right? We want to be able to say things very simply, very straightforward, so you can understand it. And that is why Alexia has delved into all this educational and all these rich experiences, is so now you can give back to the community or the people that are within your circuit, because you've dealt with it all and you're educated on it and you've been through the fire of it. But nutrition is one of the major reasons why, if you're trying to reach your goals, you're not reaching them if you don't have your nutrition dialed in. And again, another saying is you can't outwork a bad diet. It's
Right.
next to, if not impossible,
Yeah.
to do so. But so a future meeting on a future podcast, we need to talk about doctors and fitness. I got a lot to say with that. I do, and I think that'll be a
different can of worms.
Yeah, it's a big can of worms, and I want to talk about that in another one. But to wrap this up, because we've had Alexia on for a while, and I've enjoyed all the conversation. We're gonna have more, hopefully. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
To wrap this up, what is your impression that you want to leave on the world? Like, what is your goal with Flex Effect? The perfect situation or the perfect goal that you want to leave with everything.
Whew. Wow. Okay.
Deep.
That's a deep question. Honestly, I think, it really comes down to why I started it in the first place, as far as like when it comes to fitness and why that's a passion of mine. And it's because I want to be able to empower people and to help them gravitate towards that fear of failure and to push through it, right? Because I think so many times we run away from it, that the fear of failure and the anxieties and like the uncomfortability, and we run away from it, when in reality that's a sign for you to push past it and reach that full potential that you have and you're meant to fulfill. And so I think, health and fitness and nutrition is a vehicle, much like bodybuilding, much like sports and other, areas in our life, to achieve that and to find that within yourself. So I think that's really what I would love to do for people, is to empower them to, go to that next level and push through fears of failure.
Yeah, I love that. And so a minor recap, because we've been on for a while, is the Flex Effect came after Alexia forged through the fires of dealing with the adversity of being on an all boys team, pushing past that mental exhaustion of and physical exhaustion of not, having the right nutrition and struggling with depression and eating disorder, but always running into the fear, running towards that unknown to see what is next and how to educate yourself best, so that you don't fall into that hole again. And if you do come near that hole or into it, you at least have the tools and the mindset to get out of it or navigate around that pothole, right?
Love it.
And then to go back as well is, the struggle of having $1,000 and that's it, to give to a purpose that you don't even know wholeheartedly yet, but you're believing in because you studied, you researched, and then you dove in. That's admirable. That is something I think everybody can learn from, is taking a risk, taking a chance, believing in something that you've put a little work into and research into, and then going for it. Do not fear. Failure is here, but success is near. Wow, I just made that up. Oh my gosh.
I literally have taken notes on like certain things you said that I'm like, oh, I'm putting that somewhere.
That on this podcast, guys, I just made that up and I felt the chills again. Alexia already gave me the chills from what she was talking about like 5 times, and that gave me the chills. But seriously, it is super important, and that's what I've learned from this conversation, is that we all fear stuff. We all have things that are adversities in our lives, but how are we going to navigate and what are we going to do about it? We can blame and all that stuff, but let's take action. Thank you so much, Flex Effect and Alexia, coming on. I appreciate you so much. I am happy how this turned out. Good chats, good vibes. This is Seafood Nico, and we are out.
Peace. Thank you.
Hey, Seafood Nico here. If you enjoyed that podcast, check us out at Seafood Nico's podcast on YouTube. I'm going to be bringing on all sorts of awesome guests from different backgrounds, like health and wellness, martial artists, fitness professionals, and business professionals that are going to tell you about their journey, and we're just going to have some great conversations. So if you really like this, subscribe, like the channel, go follow us on social media, and make sure that you share this. I appreciate you tuning in, and have a wonderful day.